Wake up, everyone. Welcome in. It is Redacted on this Tuesday. I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natali Morris.
And on this show, we cover the stories the mainstream media largely ignores. The mainstream media, of course, is pushing for all-out war right now. They are on the side of Democrats, the warmongers in Congress, and the warmongering Biden administration, which wants all-out war with pick your players. You want it in Russia. You want it in Iran. The United States sending troops to the Middle East.
Lebanon, Ukraine. We're game for any and all wars, and I'm going to prove to you today that we have been sold lies about war for decades, and only a stupid person would think, oh, but not this one. This time they're telling us the truth. I'm going to present this to you so that it's undeniable that a vote for the Democrats is a vote to send your children to war. I cannot emphasize this enough. This is the one thing I know. I don't know who's going to win the election. I don't know anything, but what I know for sure is that a vote for Democrats is a vote for war.
Pinebox in our chat on YouTube says, I love you, Natali. And a lot of people on our Rumble chat saying false flags. Watch out for false flags. Yeah. How do you rally a country into war in the Middle East? False flags. We've been warning about that here on the show. Also, the United States government right now is preparing for a mass casualty event. You can't make this up. According to the Washington Post and now confirmed by Politico, the United States Congress is getting together to put forth a 28th Amendment to the United States Constitution. We're going to deep dive this, the continuity of government, what it would look like if suddenly 100 members of Congress were killed simultaneously. This is what they're talking about 40 days before an election day. You can't make this up. We will talk about that coming up.
Also, we're going to talk about the United States flying terrorists back and forth across the border, because that's what we do now. Also, will we get answers on the Diddy indictment? Or, as his lawyer makes the case, yes, he's freaky, but none of that was illegal. Is there a legal argument for that? We're going to talk to Lionel from Lionel Nation to see if actually that's the case. I mean, that's kind of a depressing... Well, we're going to get to it.
Yeah,
we're going to get to it. You hold your horses on that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about this war plan, and we're going to also talk about U.S. preparing for this mass casualty event in a moment. But today's show, our friends at HelloFresh are bringing you today's show because we only have a few sponsors here on the show. By the way, I was watching Fox the other day. They had 23 commercials in 1 hour. We've got 4, and they've been with us for many, many years here on the show. 4 in our show, and our show goes over an hour. So, thank you to HelloFresh for supporting independent journalism and what we do here. And I have to say, back to school time right now, every night we are cooking HelloFresh. So last night I made the Italian sausage pasta. Mm-hmm. It was absolutely delicious. Tonight we're making the pork.
It's a mushu pork
rice bowls. And I'm telling you, we've been subscribers to HelloFresh for a long time now, and they are saving us right now with all. So our daughter has dance class, then our kids have swim class. We've got to figure out, okay, get the kids to dance and swim class. We've got like an hour, a window in there, and HelloFresh has been amazing. Natalie and I switch off each week. I'll cook one week dinner, she'll cook one week dinner, and it's been amazing. So it's really, really changed how we're able to prepare with all the kids back to school activities right now. And right now you can get free breakfast for life. That's right. Just by signing up by going to HelloFresh.com/free redacted. HelloFresh.com/free redacted. You'll get free one breakfast item for life. So I've chosen the pork sausage, and it's fantastic to make it with their breakfast in the morning. But it's pre-packaged meals, fresh ingredients, and these aren't like pre-packaged meals where you have to just put them in a microwave. No, you cook them, and you can get the kids involved with them as well, chopping up the vegetables, preparing everything. So they've been a fantastic supporter of our show. Again, for free breakfast for life, go to HelloFresh.com/free redacted. One free breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life just by going to HelloFresh.com/free redacted. All right.
Well, a vote for... You ready?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Okay. A vote for Democrats is a vote to get your children and mine sent to war. I can draw you a straight line between a vote for Kamala Harris and a vote that leads us all into war with lies, and I'm going to do my damnedest to do that right now. The Democrats are the party of war and lies, and I missed it. I'm going to admit to you that I missed it for decades because I was distracted by the culture wars, race, gender, abortion, transgender, and that allowed me to vote for the Obamas and the Clintons and the Bidens, but I will not miss it this time. And if we collectively miss it, it means our children's lives. The Pentagon just announced today that they are sending troops to the Middle East after Israel rained down absolute hell on Lebanon overnight, killing 600 people in a single day, many of them civilians, women, and children. Now, if you think for a second that this war will not involve our children or the war in Ukraine, you are mistaken, sir. They will keep lying to you for this war. And since military enrollment is at an all-time low, they are planning to draft our children. In fact, not just boys. The newest defense budget, which was just announced a few months ago, has a provision to draft women too. I am imploring you to see this. I'm not asking you to support Donald Trump. I will not get distracted today with the personality of Trump. Plus, Republicans are hardly better. Most of them are also lying about this war. I'm asking you to vote against Democrats because they are the loudest liars, leading the charge with the biggest lies. So when you vote this fall, you must ask yourself this question: will we destroy our children's future because we miss the lies that we are told for war? What is the Greek proverb? The first casualty of war is the truth.
Right.
Well, we've been doing that for decades now. So let's just go through it. I've chosen a few wars that we've been lied to, and I'm asking you now to see this as a thread, right? So a war for every generation based on a lie, except now our generation currently has two. So here are just a few that I'd like to talk about today. And I think that only a foolish person would say, yes, all of these operations were based on lies, but the ones we've got now are true. Who would say that, right? That's folly. We know that the government lied about Vietnam, Iraq, Afghanistan. They also lied about Panama, Syria, Iran, Kosovo, Somalia, Yemen, Egypt. They are currently lying about Russia and Israel. So you can't believe that it's all been a lie up until now. You just simply can't believe that. So let's get started. I think most of us understand that the Bushes were war criminals. They sold us lies about weapons of mass destruction, Iraqi soldiers throwing babies from incubators. That little beauty, came from a New York City PR firm. And we turned Saddam Hussein, who had been a partner of the CIA, into a monster, of course, because we wanted a war. Well, guess who else was an asset of the CIA? Noriega from Panama. Did you know that? But despite that relationship, we bombed the holy hell out of Panama City in 1989 to overturn a government that was only considering not doing the business with the United States. In fact, the first Bush launched the largest airborne assault on a city since World War II. It was called Operation Just Cause, and it was an unprovoked attack on civilians. The death toll has never been accurately counted because the U.S. Army did not let the press or the Red Cross in. The U.S. never faced major consequences for that. Then came the Clinton administration. He backed the Mujahideen in Bosnia in order to fight Russian-aligned Serbs before he sent in NATO. This was NATO's first major operation. They called it Operation Allied Force. It was based on the lie that the Serbs had been exterminating ethnic Albanians. Instead, though, it was our guys who killed civilians. In fact, at least 9 bombing attacks hit civilian areas, and NATO used cluster bombs in Belgrade. We're supposed to have since outlawed those cluster bombs, right, Clayton? But we are using them still.
Oh yeah, we're supposed to have outlawed them. They're supposed to be something we've taken off the table. Also, what is it? Depleted uranium shells. Those are supposed to also be taken off the table. But when NATO wants to use them to carry out attacks, right, NATO gets away with using depleted uranium.
Yes. Okay. So that's next in this thread. After Clinton came Bush Jr., he launched the war in Afghanistan. I think we can all agree. Does anyone think that was a good idea? Anyone still here? Bueller. In fact, former CIA analyst and friend of the show, Michael Scheuer, he points out in his excellent book that the Bush administration knew damn well that it would be a lost cause to go into Afghanistan because the CIA had helped the Mujahideen oust the Soviets, but we didn't use any of that intelligence when Bush decided he wanted a war with Afghanistan. We just winged it and sent Americans to their deaths. Then came the Obama years. Now, sure, Obama was the coolest, right? He was the coolest in American history, but also one of the bloodiest. Did you know on his third day in office, Obama ordered a strike in Pakistan that killed 20 civilians? But hey, that was okay. You know why? Because they had a good spin on it, according to the New York Times. Every time the Obama administration killed a civilian, they would label them as combatant as long as they were military age males, unless there was explicit intelligence proving that they were innocent. Notice how the Times here calls this a disputed method. Like, well, I mean, think of that as your son. Your son gets killed by a foreign actor that's invading your country, but because he was a teenager, they thought he could have been a terrorist. It counts. Put him on the list. Check. Well, obviously that's wrong. We should all know that. And a lot of times they went and killed civilians anyway, as was reported by Chelsea Manning.
Can you just wrap your head around the hypocrisy for a moment, right? That's what the Obama administration labeled them as. So military age men, enemy combatants who are fighting our people, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
The United States has a wide open southern border where tens of thousands of illegal immigrants have poured across the southern border, and many of them are on the terrorist watch list in the United States. They're actively allowing them to do that, but they won't put a stop to that.
Right.
It's a nice hypocrisy on the part of the Biden administration.
Well, I mean, we see people like tofu. You're bad or good based on whatever you put it in. It's a good stew or a bad stew, right? Okay. And again, Chelsea Manning's biography, Bradley Manning, tells us that he many times provided his combat units intelligence showing this place has civilians now. There's no longer a target there, and they would go and bomb it anyway. The only person ever punished for those war crimes was Julian Assange. You know this. Now, while Obama continued the war in Afghanistan, he was both fighting al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and arming the same group in Syria. The al-Qaeda affiliate in Syria is called al-Nusra. Obama armed them in order to overthrow Assad based on lies about the Assad, they call it the regime. How did he get away with that? He came up with this brilliant spin about calling them moderates. They were not moderates. They were al-Qaeda. So that was just PR spin to sell you war.
And we destroyed that country. Syria, of course,
yes,
one of the most peaceful countries in the world. And we can't have them being independent and all. So once we want to manufacture a story, we destroy their country. And then we wonder why we have Syrian refugees in the United States.
Right.
Because we destroyed their country. Syrians don't want to live in the United States.
Worth noting, we are currently illegally occupying Syria.
Right.
Even though Kamala Harris lied and said there are no troops in combat zones, Syria doesn't want us there. It's an illegal occupation. Why Obama wanted a war so badly on Syria is part of a long story about Syria that the U.S. has waged since the 60s. Actually, it's not about oil. It's about disrupting Arab collaboration that would harm U.S. financial interests. On that, I refer you to this excellent book. Now, the Obama years also devastated Libya because Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, wanted President Obama to wage that war for her. She had been embarrassed by the Arab Spring in Egypt, so she said she's going to change all that in time to run for president. She literally said, I will change that by going after Muammar Gaddafi, who, you guessed it, had been an ally of the CIA during the Bush War in Iraq. Now, Obama launched Operation Odyssey Down, and he lied to the American people for Clinton. He said that Gaddafi was planning a Rwanda-style genocide for 700,000 men, women, and children. They claimed that Gaddafi was bombing peaceful protests, and they spread a strange rumor, that the soldiers were on Viagra in order to do all the raping. All of these were lies. And who did we arm to fight in Libya? Of course, al-Qaeda trained soldiers. But again, we called them moderates, and then we went and used NATO to help us out, killing thousands of civilians in Libya, not to mention destroying an economy and a country that was on its way to prosperity before Hillary Clinton set her sights on it. Now we move into the Trump years. Trump did escalate the wars in Somalia. He launched, in fact, more drone strikes on Somalia than Bush and Obama combined. But he did reportedly ask his staff in 2017, can't we just pull out of there? Because he does, in fact, seem to be against foreign wars. He's the only one who will give lip service to that. And it was Secretary of Defense General Mattis who said, actually, no, we can't pull out of there. So the drone strikes increased. In fact, yes, on civilians, including, we've reported this horrific story, a mother and who was carrying her 4-year-old son. Do you recall this? The Pentagon said, well, we had newbies on the job. It kind of was a software problem. We shouldn't have done it. But this was a mom, you guys, carrying her baby. And now we come to the Biden-Harris administration. So now that I've painted this picture for you of all the war that we've been sold lies, do you for a second think that the Biden administration is the only ones telling the truth now, finally? How could somebody think that? I think that I've proven to you every week for the last 2 years on this show, they are lying to us about Ukraine. This was not Putin's unprovoked attack. Once again, we are arming the bad guys. We arm them just like we arm al-Nusra and Hamas. You got to think, though, that Zelensky will soon turn into, for us, a Gaddafi or a Noriega or a Saddam, right? If I were him, I would be smart about that. I would be thinking, well, when does the U.S. turn on me? Because the enemy of our enemy usually becomes our enemy when we need them to be. So if Zelensky were a thinking man, which I'm not sure he is, then he'd be worried about this. And now, this week, we are sending more troops to defend Israel, even though Israel is killing civilians, even though Netanyahu now has dictator power, faces opposition from the Israelis he purports to support. He doesn't. He doesn't care about them. Even though Israel hides its nuclear weapons program, even though Israel has for decades used rape as torture on prisoners, even though Israel interferes in our elections quite openly, and we fund Hamas to keep this warfare with Israel going. So they lie about our presence in Israel and Ukraine, and they lie about our reasons for being in both places. And Kamala Harris, you guys, started the lies about Russia when she went to Ukraine in 2022, just before the conflict started. So if she is willing to lie about this, she does not want the war to end. And if you vote for her, you must not either. No Democrats want the war to end. And truth be told, most Republicans don't either. They don't tell the truth about these. And this became really clear to me during the campaigns when, if the Republicans wanted to defeat Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, why didn't they tell the truth about all their war crimes? Instead, they argued about race and gender and abortion and religion and gay marriage. And why? Right? Because they're part of a uniparty. They both want war. But if you study, you guys, if you see through the war machine propaganda, you'll start to see the matrix. And when you see the matrix, you start to hear who's telling the truth about lies and about war and who's not. President Trump, yes, is protecting Israel, but he has said he will broker peace with Russia. He did oppose aid to Israel in the COVID relief packages, and he does speak out against foreign wars. Do I know he will de-escalate? Absolutely no, I don't. But his is the smallest war drum that we currently have on the debate stage. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. But, as people point in the chat out here, people are like, well, Trump said make Israel great again.
Yes.
So a lot of people here are not fans of Trump's sort of doublespeak on this. And it's
I'm not either. I'm with you. I don't like to hear it.
And also, to surround yourself with the people like Mike Pompeo and these warmongers. Like, this is exactly what Colonel Douglas Macgregor, who served under President Trump, has said. And what his biggest concern is that President Trump, in the first time around, surrounded himself with these deep state swamp rats. And then now Trump in interviews has said, I didn't know better. Now I know who these people are. I'm not going to let it happen again. But then Mike Pompeo was there swirling around again. He's speaking at CPAC, and he's hanging around the Trump people again.
Right.
And so they want to end a war in Ukraine, but they're fine to send American troops into the Middle East. I think it's very important, especially if our viewers are Christian. And you hear this, Tucker had a great interview with the author of Mere Christendom, the pastor, and he said, it's very, very, as a Christian, people should never idolizing politicians, holding them up as some sort of religious figure, right? And that's what a lot of people do. And these people, just watch their actions, people. Just pay attention to what they're saying, and then watch what their actions are. And if their actions back it up, great. If Trump says we're getting out of the Middle East, great. I'll say hallelujah. But right now he's got these swamp rats swirling around once again. That's really scary.
Right. I'm not here to convince you to vote for Trump. to think about who does Trump surround himself and what have they said. Vivek Ramaswamy, RFK Jr. have both told the truth about the war in Ukraine. They have problematic, in my view, views on Israel. JD Vance.
They all do.
Yes. Yeah, we don't have a vote on Israel. This is true.
Maybe the only politician telling the truth about it is like Thomas Massey. I mean, there's so few,
Yes.
but so many of them. They're like, yeah, get out of Ukraine. But Israel. It's
Right.
like it's this weird sort of doublespeak on front of these people. And like someone in the chat's like, Redacted hates Israel. Get your head out of your ass. No, we don't. I love Israelis. I have a lot of Israeli friends. We can't stand Benjamin Netanyahu, who's a warmonger. And you can absolutely dislike the administration and government of a country like we do. Love the United States of America. Hate the Biden administration, hate our current government, hate the warmongers that are killing people. So you can actually have different feelings about that. I know that's shocking to some people.
Sure. I think it's also worth pointing out J.D. Vance, should he then eventually become the president, he wants a war with Iran. That's problematic. We can look into that another day. My point is that the Democrats want all wars. They vomit out all lies. They speak no truths. And that, to me, is the only way I can vote this November is against these warmongers. Trans rights, abortion rights, race theory, none of that will matter if the Democrats continue their war. It's less about that and more about who will drag my child into war. And I have boys and girls. The government wants them both. And I will fight back to the death for my children not to be dragged into these wars based on lies. So I ask you, when you go to the voting polls, will we destroy our future and our children's future because we miss the lies for the culture wars like I once did? Now, again, American troops are being deployed this week. Will we let that happen based on government propaganda? I came across this post on X today, and it was so moving that I thought I'd read it to you, because this is how history will judge us, you guys. This comes from a combat veteran, username Noctis Draven, and he posted this video. I'd like to play it for you without sound and read to you what he wrote. He says, "This was me on my profile landing page as a small video of myself in Iraq. I was one of the few soldiers who managed to sneak a camera into the combat zones, and I have 20 hours of footage the world has never seen. I will never show it. Maybe when I die, I will release it. However, this is an example of what our time in Iraq was. We as civilians and coalition forces invaded a land and a people under false pretenses that were for weapons of mass destruction that were never found, and dangers to America that did not exist. There's a famous quote that says, 'History is written by the victors.' That's what the West has tried to deliver to the world. The truth is, America and coalition forces were the bad guys. We're not the good guys. And what did we accomplish in 20-year invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan? We killed over 1 million people and secured power for Israel, along with losing over 7,000 American lives and leaving countless Americans permanently disabled. I will not hold back the truth, because now our American government seeks the same thing. They seek to send Americans into war for Israel and regional power, but the soldiers will be told it's to defend America. And it's not, you guys. It absolutely is not. Now, he followed up with this tweet, which I would also like you to see for yourself. He says, Americans have been in a constant state of war since our founding. My saying is a war for each generation. Sadly, a truth. Each generation of America is brainwashed and indoctrinated into a war of some kind. It's a wonder how the rest of the world gets along and has existed without constant war. But America, a land not even 300 years old, has a war for every generation. How many times do we have to do this dance before you realize the song is on repeat? So I ask you, as you go to the polls, how will you vote knowing that the people in power continue to lie to get their war and destruction and death? That's what I'd like you to chew on, because it's kept me up all night, you guys. This, especially on this news of more Americans going into the Middle East. I honestly can't sleep, and I want us together to see this as a string of lies and say, no more.
A lot of people in the chat saying 100% truth, 100% truth. Well said, well said. And I will vouch for that. Last night, tossing and turning, I rolled over at like 3 in the morning, and my wife was missing. I'm like, where the hell is she?
I got up at 3:40.
She couldn't get up. She couldn't sleep, and thinking about this last night. And yeah, I mean, people sort of like blindly walk along with this stuff, and they are force feeding you. You're going to see tonight on the nightly newscast, you'll watch CBS, ABC, NBC, all of Lester Holt, all of that crap, and they're going to be pushing American forces heading there because it's a threat to you right now, threat to America. Don't fall for it. It's not a threat to the United States of America. It's a threat when we make it a threat. When we stick our noses and put bases in these locations and place our bases in Syria and Lebanon and all of these other spots in Iraq and Afghanistan, this is when it becomes a problem for the United States of America. And then we open our southern border and we let these people walk right in. So again, this is why it's so troubling. And I was looking at a poll today. The number one thing on Americans' minds right now is the prices, high prices. And the second thing is immigration. War is not even on the list. Like, war wasn't even on the list.
Move it up the list, please. I implore you for my children, if not for yours.
Yeah. Well, we got more news to get to here on your Tuesday, because the United States right now, the United States Congress is preparing for a mass casualty event. What? Yeah, the United States Congress can't get its head together right now on a budget, can't figure out a continuing resolution right now to keep our government running. They want to spend more money on war. They've got that they've got that handled. Democrats couldn't manage to vote yesterday for the Violence Against Women Act, which would have prevented, caused the deportation of illegal immigrants who are involved in some sort of violence. No, Democrats couldn't vote for that. But they can get on the same page right now for a mass casualty event. We'll talk about that in a second. But first, today's show is brought to you by our friends at Aura. It's really important time to be talking about them because hackers may have stolen the Social Security numbers of every American. 2.9 billion records were stolen from national public data, which provides personal information to employers, others doing background checks. Unbelievable. These stolen records include person's full name, address, date of birth, phone number, most importantly, your Social Security number. And members of the hacker group have reportedly released this information for free online. It's unbelievable. And of course, we know so many of our audience members who've had hacks and issues because of this, your online information being out there. Huge wake-up call for all of us. We've never been more vulnerable online than we are right now. But we use Aura, and this is a big protection right now. Aura monitors your personal data, including your Social Security number, across billions of data points like the dark web, public court records, to detect and alert you to potential identity theft. They give you up to $5 million in identity theft insurance should the worst case scenario happen. They also provide a bunch of other features to keep you safe online, all inside of one app. So you can go to my link right now, aura.com/redacted, to try it for 14 days for free. And that is enough time. That free trial of 14 days is enough time in that free window for Aura to find out if any of your personal data is exposed. So they give you those 2 weeks for free. Just try it, and you can see what data is out there. I highly recommend you do that right now, because not only is this national public data not going to do anything to help you, they probably aren't even going to face any repercussions for this leak. So anyway, try them out right now. Aura.com/redacted, 14-day free trial. Let them do all the hard work, and in those 14 days, you'll be stunned at what stuff they are able to find of yours that is out there on the dark web. Well, thanks to everyone for subscribing and being a part of our show here. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys on Rumble. Nice to see all of our Rumble folks. Rumble, by the way, is a free speech platform. So they don't censor your comments and everything. They are a great platform for that. So if you're interested in a free speech platform, that is our friends over at Rumble. We're almost at 600,000 subscribers on our Rumble channel now, which is great. So thank you guys for all of the support on Rumble. We love those guys. Yes. And of course, YouTube as well. Thank you guys. Ben wants to know, I'd like to know if Natali and Clayton are preppers to a degree. Yes, in the protection of our family, making sure that we have certain medicines on standby and things like that, right?
I have a backlog of Neosporin at all times,
yes,
you
true.
Guys. With me, as always. This is not a commercial for Neosporin. It's just a very ingrained habit.
Well, you might need it for our next story. Well, a stunning development coming from Capitol Hill. So we are just over 40 days away from arguably the most important election in American history. And now Congress is pushing forward a proposed 28th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. A new amendment right now, 40 days before the election. You can't make this up. It used to be that the deep state forces sort of operated in the shadows. We didn't know what they were doing. And now they're operating sort of right out in the public, force feeding information right to our members of Congress and force feeding it to the mockingbird media. Congress is openly telling us right now that they are prepping for a mass casualty event in Washington, D.C. Yes, mass assassinations of our members of Congress. I'm talking over 100 members of Congress killed in a single event. They're preparing for it, according to the Washington Post, and now confirmed by Politico. A bipartisan group of congressmen are suddenly concerned about the nation's preparedness for a catastrophic event. They're rolling out a plan for the 28th Amendment, called the Continuity Amendment. Continuity of Government Amendment. So get this. They would allow members of Congress to be rapidly replaced in the event that 100 or more of them are suddenly killed. Because when you see these headlines from like the Washington Post and you read these stories from Politico, I want all of you to like go a layer deeper. Like, what's the real goal here? First of all, it's to scare you, number one, right? That's what they're hoping to do, to scare you. Who knows if there's some sort of a false flag? Who the hell knows? Anyway, their main goal is to scare you. And then you want to go a layer deeper and find out exactly what they're trying to do here. So if 100 members of Congress are suddenly killed, no election would be needed, according to this new continuity of government plan. No election. Instead, no voters involved in a mass change of our government. Not at all. No voters allowed. Sound familiar? Like, I don't know, the Obama coup that just removed President Biden from the ticket from running for office again without any voting by Democratic voters, placed Kamala Harris as the presumptive nominee.
Yes.
Sound familiar?
That happened in the year 2024.
We had a coup in the United States a few weeks ago. A Democratic coup in the United States a few weeks ago. And they removed a sitting president from the ticket, replaced him with their new puppet. And they did it all without you voting anything. It's amazing, actually. Sounds like something you'd hear about in North Korea, and we'd be mocking it. But no, it happened right here. Right now, the current rules necessitate special elections to fill vacant seats. Isn't it funny? We
think that the Donbass region, they voted to join Russia. They voted over 80%, and they said, and the United States says that's a sham election. The people didn't really want it. We don't. Unless we see that everyone votes, then we don't respect it. That's what the Democrats say. Kamala Harris gets 0 votes. Legit.
Right.
Totally cool.
Someone in our chat just said, let me scroll back up here. It says someone, sounds like, oh yeah, Autumn Hill says they sound like they're pulling a Ukraine. Yeah, that's kind of what it sounds like. They're pulling a Ukraine. So get this. This would allow members of Congress to be rapidly replaced in the event that 100 or more of them are suddenly killed. No election needed, no voters involved at all. Right now, the current rules necessitate special elections to fill vacant seats, right? A member of Congress dies in a plane crash, special election. A member of Congress dies in a car crash, special election. America has had hundreds of special elections since the late 1700s. And they're actually fascinating. If you want to actually dive deep into all of the special elections, they're really interesting. Some people just like choose not to serve. Like they're elected and they're like, nah, I'm not going to serve. Oh, okay, now we need to have a special election. Others died in car crashes, mysterious circumstances. So we've had hundreds of these over the years. Since the 1700s, we've dealt with it. But now, suddenly, 40 days before an election, Congress is really focused on this. Red flags everywhere. So America's had hundreds of this. But what has changed right now? Like, what has changed right now, 40 days before an election? Let's put a pin in that for a second. Could it have anything to do with a 2016 study of special elections that the House of Representatives decided to do? So the House of Representatives put out their own study to see how, this was during Obama's time in office in 2016, to see how special elections were carried out. It found that during special elections, the number one factor that determined if a candidate would win in a sudden special election was the approval of the president. So if Trump is hugely popular, then a special candidate would likely win that special election. If the president is hated, then they're likely to lose. So the number one factor for the success of a candidate in these special elections is the popularity of the president of the United States at the time. Pretty interesting, because I guess there's not a lot of other time right now with a special election, so the popularity of the president really drives the narrative here. In other words, if you have a Democrat running and Kamala is president and the country thinks she's a disaster, well, then the candidate likely loses that special election, because according to this study by the House of Representatives, right now we have a 49-day time limit to hold special elections, but Congress thinks that's too long. and they would get rid of that election. And instead, here's how the amendment would work. Lawmakers would submit a list of 5 successors from their own party to the state governor. In the event of a mass casualty incident, hundreds of members of Congress are killed, wiped out. The governor then would appoint one of these nominees as the replacement, ensuring that the legislative body remains operational until they could get their act together and then hold an election. But right away, the governor would choose based on those selections from their party. Okay, no voters needed. You don't need a vote. You don't need voters in this. But here's where it gets tricky. Passing a constitutional amendment, of course, is nearly impossible in the United States. We don't have very many of them, and for good reason. It requires a 2/3 majority to vote in both the House and the Senate, followed by a ratification from 3/4 of the state legislatures in the country. But the bigger question is, why now? Do they know something we don't? Are we facing a mass casualty event that we need to be made aware of? Do you have some information you'd like to share with us on this? Could it have anything to do with the wide open southern borders and the amount of military-aged men that have now come into the United States armed? I'd like to know about this. Are the warmongers in the deep state planning to take us to war with Iran, with Russia? Is that what the Biden administration is trying to do? And the Pentagon? Certainly looks that way. Certainly looks that way. A nuclear strike on D.C. while Congress is in session? Or imagine a State of the Union address when everyone is in the same room, for crying out loud. What are they exactly hiding here? I would love to know. There are no such things as coincidences in Washington, D.C. Why now, with 40 days before an election, are they pushing forth on a 28th Amendment to the Constitution for a continuity of government? You think it's a coincidence? Why is Congress right now doing this? So just so you understand, over the past 15 years, we've seen a number of close calls. AOC, terrified for her life. She was the January 6th. Remember AOC? She almost thought she was going to get killed. She was not even in the building. She was in a totally other building, but she was terrified. In a building down the street. We've seen shootings. We've seen train crashes, right? We've seen all sorts of different things. We've seen 2017, a gunman opened fire at a GOP baseball practice, nearly killing House Minority Whip Steve Scalise. Lawmakers are concerned that illegal guns are coming across the southern border in the hands of gang members that could lead to a mass casualty event. But all of this is moot, right? Because right now, our continuity of government protocols in the event of a national emergency take the power away from Congress, and the president has to put it into this guy's hands. This guy right here is, let me see if I can get my images up here. Next image. I can't find the next image.
Sorry, I can't help you. I'm sitting over here.
I'm trying. All right. No, that's the wrong one. Next image. Oh, well, we'll get the images up later. But anyway, this is Gregory Gallo, a name you guys should all learn. Here he is. He is the commander of NORAD and NORTHCOM, which means that in a continuity of government scenario where national security is at risk, he becomes our leader. The head of NORAD becomes our leader. He basically becomes the acting head of government. He calls the shots. Not Tim Walz, not J.D. Vance. The head of NORAD becomes our leader in the case of a catastrophic event and an invasion of our country. NORAD even boasts about it on their own Twitter feed, talking about how, that's what NORAD does, enables continuity of government operations. And he's in Washington right now having meetings about continuity of government. Okay, it's all interesting timing, isn't it? That's the law. So if Biden dies or resigns, then Kamala Harris becomes president, but not if there's an invasion of the United States. Under the law, General George Gallo becomes our leader. So the timing of this 28th Amendment proposal on the cusp of a major election right now raises some serious eyebrows. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this in the comments below, what you guys think about this. Let us know.
Yes, that is extremely troubling, I would say.
I'm struck by the timing of it. I mean, what do you guys think in the comments here? Is it the Washington Post breaks this story? By the way, the Washington Post is a mouthpiece of the CIA and the FBI. We've had whistleblowers from both of those organizations on our show telling us that when they want to leak stories to America, where do they go? They go to the New York Times and the Washington Post to leak these stories.
Yes.
That's what they do. So the Washington Post, of course, is an extension of the CIA and the FBI and the deep state. So is the New York Times. So it's interesting that we're getting this information from the Washington Post first. And then, of course, Politico confirming it. It's deeply, deeply troubling.
Indeed it is.
Yeah. All right. So
we have more news to get to, but we're having a small technical difficulty about showing you our next sponsor and our next bit. So we'll let's see. What do you think we should do?
You can do it. You can do it. Go ahead.
So before we move on, I want to tell you about our friends over at the Wellness Company, because they have something now to help you not just prepare for an eventuality or in some kind of emergency in your house, but also specifically for kids. So this is for parents and grandparents out there who've purchased an emergency kit to help yourself out. It's like having an urgent care or a hospital in your own home, including it even has an EpiPen. So you asked for it and they deliver just in time for back to school. So whether you have in your house strep throat, lice, ear infection, the flu, all this unexpected stuff that comes with being a parent and stresses you out, we know it well in this house, then you really feel helpless when you can't get your little one serious help. And not to mention that you can turn your place upside down, especially if you're on vacation. But luckily, there's no longer a medical gatekeeper with the Wellness Company, because they have not only this emergency kit, it's called the Kids Emergency Kit, hand selected by their board. It also has a 40-page guidebook to have an expert by your side, so you know exactly how to use everything in your kit. I've often wondered this, like, okay, I have these things, but what if I didn't have the internet to look up what dosage or what have you? Then you'd need it printed, right? These are the kinds of things we think about all the time on this show. So ordering this kit is simple. You just purchase the kit, fill out an intake form, and then it's delivered to your door. No more late night pharmacy runs, no more scrambling when your child needs rest. And if one of the scripts run out, there's a replenishment option to restock only what you need. This isn't just a purchase, it's a peace of mind. So you can go to twc.health/redacted. Use our code redacted to save $40 at checkout. Once again, that's TWC for the Wellness Company, twc.health/redacted. The kits are only available in the US for now. Use our code again, redacted, to save $40 at checkout, twc.health/redacted.
Well, what if I told you that private airline companies have lucrative contracts with the Department of Defense to take illegal immigrants back and forth to their homes over and over again? You want to go home for a birthday party? No problem. We'll take you home. You'll leave in shackles and we'll bring you back into the United States. The United States government will fly illegal immigrants home and then bring them right back. You are paying for this. You, the American taxpayers, are paying for this. You heard me right. And the woman who's here to break this story wide open is Sonia Labasco, a former United States Air Marshal. And she's here with this unbelievable story. And Sonia, when I heard about this, I said, this can't be true. This is unbelievable. What is exactly happening here?
Well, Clayton, it's true. I mean, the taxpayers are paying billions of dollars to transport illegal immigrants out of our country. I think what's really needs to be highlighted here is these airline companies like GlobalX, that's one of the largest carriers, they started their contract in August of 2021 down in Miami. Now, GlobalX only had 2 aircraft in August of 2021. Today, as it stands, they have 17 aircraft. 17. Now, that's over $1 billion worth of aircraft that they've purchased in the last few years. And this is all because of the government contracts that they are contracting with to export the illegal aliens who are voluntarily removing themselves.
So now you've been speaking with the pilots. Can you talk to me as a United States Air Marshal? What are these pilots telling you? And I mean, obviously they need pilots. They need experienced pilots to be carrying this out. Who are these people? Who are these pilots, and what have they told you?
A lot of these pilots are retired, and it's not only pilots, it's also the guards that are contracted, because these individuals, even though they're voluntary removal, they're still in federal custody. That's why they're in shackles. That's why this looks so official, correct? Because even if they voluntarily remove, they come into federal custody. Well, with these private airlines, they also contract with the guards. There's also contracted guards that have to fly on these planes in federal custody. So there's another contract for you on top of us paying to transport them out of the country. We're also paying for the security to babysit them basically while they're flown out of the country. And they're very unhappy. They're flying into all the countries where we have a CBP1 mobile app. That's the government system to where someone that wants to enter the country illegally can go to CBP Mobile 1 app and they can apply for entry into the United States. They also know now that we're flying them in through CBP Mobile 1. Now the taxpayers are providing a private charter for them to fly back home. And as you said, they fly back home to see their family. They may have been in the United States for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and they want to go back home for some type of special gathering, a birthday party, quinceañera, some type of milestone in the family. So they voluntarily remove themselves. They know that they're going to get transported back home. They have to go through federal custody, so there's a little downtime for them at a holding location, but they know they're going to be sent back home, and within a couple of weeks, they're going to re-enter the United States.
I mean, I'd like to go visit South America. Can I just, call up these airlines and say, I'd like to take my family on a little vacation. Will the United States government pay for it? Of course not. But here we are, American taxpayers footing the bill for them to go back and forth to quinceañera parties, birthday parties, whatever else, and they can come right back into the United States. This is, it's shocking. It really shouldn't surprise anyone, though, that these airlines are now able to buy additional aircraft to accommodate these DoD contracts and expand their flights, expand their service, hire former, United States Air Marshals to be on board to facilitate all of this. It's absolutely disgusting. We're looking at some video here. This is from RGV Truth. Posted this about Global X, and you see these guys in shackles here. What are we looking at here? They're just moving these guys around in shackles, but they're going right back to their home country.
Correct. That's what you consider federal custody. So whether an ICE DRO went out and took someone off the street and it's going to deport them, or this individual showed up at the ICE facility and said, I just want to turn myself in, I just want to voluntarily remove, they will be in the shackles because that is considered federal custody. So that's what you're seeing. Right there is the individuals that turn themselves in, or maybe a few of those could be somebody that actually was taken off the street, but most of these are voluntary removals. But what's so glaring is in the numbers that the government sends to us, these all look like deportations, correct? They're using these voluntary removals and mixing those into the numbers to make it appear like they're doing this massive deportation job, and they're really not. These people are voluntarily leaving, and then they're coming back.
So these people are voluntarily leaving. They're turning themselves over to federal custody, and the government, the Biden administration, then considers that a deportation number in their phony numbers. They're flying them to wherever, out of America.
They go right back
country.
A whole plane full of their home country. So everyone you see getting on that plane is going to go to the same country. So they're people that know each other. So they're flying back to their home country. So these planes, let's just say, for example, this may be a plane based going to Nicaragua. Those are all people that came from the same location in the same area. So they're taking them back home.
And then when they want to return from the birthday party or the wedding or the other celebration, what do? They just get on the CB1, the CB1 app and notify them that, hey, I need to be picked up now. I need to be flown back into the United States.
We are providing an in and out service in this country. This is what we're doing. We've got a concierge service that's open for anyone that wants to illegally enter our country through our own CBP1 mobile app, right? That's a concierge service. We're saying, hey, the doors are open. Come on and fly in. And then when you're tired of being here, let's put you on Global X or one of these other private chartered flights, which are a minimum of $150,000 just for the flight. That's got to do with the medical personnel that has to be on board, the guards that have to be on board. That's got nothing to do with the fuel cost. How about the salaries of the pilot and the first officer that has to be on board? How about the flight crew? Because there have to be flight attendants on this plane as well, right?
Yeah, you've got to serve them food. You've got to serve them peanuts and give them free drinks.
It's chartered flights. Can you imagine? These are chartered flights, so everything someone would get on a chartered flight, a private chartered flight. they're going to have on these Global X flights and the other air carriers. Global X is just one. This is happening throughout the United States. Global X has got a big export business out of Alexandria, Louisiana, and Harlingen, Texas. Those are two of the largest areas that Global X flies out of. But this is happening in San Diego. We had a report, I don't know if you saw the report from Luke Slywalker the other day. He did a great job going out to the airport and actually videoing one of the air carriers there that they were doing the same thing, exporting these voluntary removals.
Yeah, we have the video here. So this is another airliner. Some of these are unmarked, but some of them have like World Atlantic Airlines. I mean, these are airlines I've never heard of before. Global X, World Atlantic Airlines. And it sounds like, business is booming for them. They're able to add all sorts of buy additional aircraft right now, buy additional Airbuses. These DoD contracts are pretty lucrative, no?
Oh, they're very lucrative, and we're paying for this. We're paying to bring them in. We're paying them to fly them around while they're here in the United States, and then we're also paying for a private charter. When have you ever been on a private charter, Clayton? I've never been on a private charter.
I have never. Hand to the heavens, I've never even flown privately. I've never been on a private charter, ever. And to think, and I know how expensive they are, so the fact that we're paying and facilitating this for back and forth travel is absolutely mind-boggling. And if I were to tell this to a random person, they would laugh at me and say that sounds like fake news. That sounds like some sort of a conspiracy theory. And here we have the video footage and your confirmation as a U.S. Air Marshal that this is exactly happening. What are the governors doing about this? I mean, Louisiana, this is happening under the government's watch. Is the governor of Louisiana just facilitating this and allowing this to happen?
All open source. Clayton, you can Google and find this out. You can go to the government contracting office and see the contract. This is happening right under our nose, and no one is doing anything about it. Think about it. In some of these airport locations, think of the jobs that are created for these contractors. Think of how many guards they need to contract with. Think of the medical staff locally. These are all local individuals that live in these areas that are contracting with Global X on these two particular airports that they fly out of. So this brings jobs into the local economy, regardless if it's destroying our country, right? This is the destruction of our. They seem to be okay with it.
Oh, they're totally fine with it. This is all part of the plan, of course. When you speak to these pilots, you've said that they're unhappy. They're so sick because they've have to fly there and then they're flying back and forth and back and forth. I mean, what are the pilots saying to you specifically?
Well, when they first took the job, a lot of them are retired and many of them have left. I want to make that clear. Many of them, once they got inside, they said, oh gosh, I can't be part of this. They thought they were working some high speed, things for the Department of Defense. They were going to be contracting with some maybe dignitaries or flying, internationally. They had no idea that they were going to be deportee experts for voluntary removals. So some of their first few flights, they were like, wow, this is kind of sad, I'm having to fly a flight to deport people who were in this country that, had the fear of dying. They claimed asylum. Like, I'm taking them back into a hostile environment, right? Because they're human at the end of the day, the pilots are. But they said once they got on the flight, everybody's shackled. They have to come on the flight. They see everybody that's in the aircraft. But when they landed, right before they landed, the guards take the shackles off. They take off the, whatever restraint device they have. And everybody on the plane starts clapping. So they're clapping when they're landed because they're home. So they're celebrating that, oh, hey, we made it. We're fine. We're home. Everybody's clapping. So it's a very festive mood. And then a couple of the pilots, they get off to get grab a cup of coffee or get something to eat in the airport. And there's family members waiting there with signs welcoming them home. They're welcoming them home. Hey, welcome back. Glad you're home. So this is not a somber situation is what they thought, right, when they first got into it, because they're thinking I'm gonna have to deport someone who could be maybe killed upon being released in the country, right? This person could be put in prison. They're all thinking the bad things that are going to happen. They were not prepared to step off the aircraft and see the celebrations of the welcome homes that they were seeing.
It's deeply disgusting and disturbing, and all part of the plan. Of course, they won't publicly admit to this, and the Biden administration, of course, is hiding. right now, and they won't answer questions about this, but this is happening under our noses. I hope we can bring awareness to this. Sonia, the amazing work that you're doing right now to bring awareness to this, I hope everyone will share this story, share it with your local elected officials. If this is happening, particularly in San Diego and in Louisiana, let your local officials know that this is happening, if we can put a stop to this. But these people, this is criminal. These people need to be locked up. Sonia, thank you so much for this unbelievable story. And if there's anything we can do to continue to get the message out, we will. Thank you, Sonia. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Clayton. And we appreciate everything you do to highlight the egregious nature that continues in our country today. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. And we'll continue to shine a light on it. I mean, immigration right now on the list of factors for Americans is the second most important issue behind high prices right now, the economy. And number 2 on their list right now, according to new polling out today, is the immigration. I mean, we could, I guess, ask people here in a poll, David, maybe we could throw up a poll if you get a chance, what issues are most important to you right now? High prices, immigration, stopping the other opponent, I don't know, but war, let us know in the comments. But this is deeply, deeply troubling. Imagine flying terrorists back and forth across the United States borders on your taxpayer dollars, and they want to go to a birthday party, a quinceañera, and come right back into the United States and just log into the CB1 app, use the Customs and Border Patrol app. Oh, I want to book my travel like you're booking a Southwest Airlines flight. Boom. Send right back over the border, right back into the United States.
Well, I don't have to imagine because you just
can I get a flight from Portland to like back home in Indiana? Will they do that for me, or do I have to cross?
You have to be an illegal immigrant, Philip. I'm sorry. You have to be a military-age man, likely a terrorist, and then you can just you have to be illegal. That's
man. I don't check any of those boxes. That's
sorry. Well, life is young. You're still young. You can work on that.
Right. I don't know if you saw this in the newsletter today, but Democrats also voted almost unanimously. There was a smattering of them that actually voted for the recent bill, H.R. 7909, Violence Against Women by Illegal Aliens Act. The bill would allow us to deport anyone who has been convicted of sex crimes, and Democrats say, no, we want those people here. All good. You stay.
Now, you cut off part of your sentence at the beginning. Democrats voted unanimously against the bill.
Not unanimously. There were 58 Democrats that voted against it, but most for it. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm speaking double speak.
Yeah. 158 Democrats voted against the bill, right? And a few Democrats voted for it.
Yes.
We linked in the newsletter today. You can read the entire list, by the way, in our newsletter. That's why you should subscribe to our newsletter. We publish it every morning. But we included the list that had all 158 Democrats in there who voted against this bill. Sign up for our newsletter. It's free. Go to redacted.inc. But it's so disgusting. How can you vote against this?
Who wants that? Like, okay, if those Democrats that voted against it and said that sexual predators should stay here, they should house those people in their house.
Right. Look for a Waltz Harris yard sign, and then you should walk up and knock on their doors.
Here's the rapist. Okay, they stay with you. You got young kids? Cool. Off you go. Okay. Unbelievable. So that's the common sense we don't have.
By the way, we were talking earlier about, I don't know if this is true, it'd be hard to say, but apparently according to burglars, which I love this story, that if they see someone with an American flag on their house, they're less likely to rob the house. They're less likely to burgle the house. I would love to see that, and I wonder if that's true, because chances are that person probably has armed themselves and is protecting their family.
Depending on the state,
Depending on the state, but also it'd be interesting to see if that correlates with people that have like a Waltz Harris yard sign up.
Yeah.
Like if burglars are like, ooh, you know what, we're going to go rob a house. If we see a Harris Waltz sign in the yard, and there's no American flag hanging up there, maybe that's a better target.
Right. If you're a burglar, ring in on this. Let us know.
If you're a thief, let us know in the comments. We'd love to
know.
Hey, did you by chance read the $50 super chat from Cooper Hilschner?
No. Missed it. Well, let me see here.
Okay, he said, how do we deal with the discrepancy between content on this show and the reality presented to us? None of this content, these stories matter because 80% of the world is asleep at the wheel. How do we beat the gaslighting?
Well, we're seeing big victories already happening. We're seeing an awakening happening across the United States in a way that we haven't before. And it's interesting. I've talked to a lot of people who have been really downtrodden about the past few years, and there's like hope. I mean, even listening to our friend Tucker Carlson last night in Reading, Pennsylvania, talking about we are commanded to have hope, and you're starting to see a reflection, I think, in people being thrown out of office. You're seeing people. You're seeing. I don't know. I think you're seeing a groundswell of, even just look at children. You're seeing children right in schools right now who are getting together.
Well, yeah, a friend of mine was her son is a football player, and she says the football players, private school, public school, they're getting together to pray before games because they feel like they need this sort of active communal faith together, no matter what religion they are. They welcome everybody, and you're like, what is this kind of renaissance, right? It's interesting. But Cooper, thank you so much for helping us, though, by asking this question. Your super chat will help the algorithm tell other people to watch our content. If you share it, other people will start to think this way. If you comment, if you like it, if you subscribe, that helps too. So thank you for asking the question, and thank you for being personally motivated for a change.
Yeah, I mean, that's exciting.
I also think that we're obviously winning the info war on social media, or they wouldn't be trying so hard to silence us. Like, they are fighting so hard to remove our free speech, which means we have to be making an impact in some way.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, to your point about sharing the content and being able to push, be able to send this out to somebody who might be sort of on the fence with this thinking. Maybe you have a pro-war friend out there who like loves war, maybe send them our show. Educate them about the warmongering that's continuing, or COVID, or anything like that. I mean, John Legend this weekend, I saw a commercial for John Legend now pushing COVID shots.
Yes.
You'd have Kathy Hochul of New York being like, hey, go down right now. It's that time of year. Go to get your yearly COVID shot. I'm like, do you not watch our show? Have you not seen all of
I don't think John Legend does, actually.
I mean, people are out there sitting there going, oh, okay, yeah, honey, we better go. John Legend told me to go get we need, I mean, we are, like our friend Alex Jones says, it's an info war right now. And so anyway, thank you guys. We got more news to get to here. Will we get answers from the P. Diddy indictment and the upcoming trial? I mean, are we going to see other shoes about to drop here? You have Pink, you have Usher, all wiping their social media accounts, blaming it on hackers. They're deleting all of their posts. Now, will Ashton Kutcher soon start deleting his posts? There's a lot of stuff about to come out here. We're going to talk about that next. But first,
strange things afoot at the Circle K, you guys. If you know that movie reference, put it in the chat. But first, we want to tell you about our friends over at Bio-Optimizers, because the clock is ticking on 2024, but it's not too late to revolutionize your health. And did you know that positive change can happen even faster than you think? Better nutrition shows results in just 1 to 2 weeks. Consistent workouts transform your body in about 8 to 12 weeks. And quality sleep can improve your life in just 14 days. Now imagine amplifying all of these benefits with one powerhouse supplement. Enter Magnesium Breakthrough by our friends Bio-Optimizers. They are your secret weapon for unlocking peak performance. And this is a groundbreaking formula harnessing 7 forms of bioavailable magnesium, scientifically designed to elevate your sleep, supplement workout recovery, and boost muscle growth. And imagine drifting off to sleep effortlessly and waking up bursting with energy, watching your fitness goals materialize before your eyes. That is truly the power of magnesium and all of the different forms of magnesium that are in Magnesium Breakthrough with Bio-Optimizers. You're upgrading your body's operating system. So don't let time slip away. Seize control of your health with Magnesium Breakthrough. And it's the final time to make the last 90 days of the year legendary with Magnesium Breakthrough. If you use our code Redacted, you'll get 10% off at checkout. So head on over to buyoptimizers.com. That's with a Z. See how it's spelled on the screen. Buyoptimizers.com/redacted. Use the code Redacted for a 10% discount. One more time. That's buyoptimizers.com/redacted. Well, Diddy's lawyers say that the freak-off parties never happened because the government didn't put that in the indictment. meaning there's no evidence of it, but celebrities sure are getting mighty nervous. There are all kinds of names being thrown around over the weekend. Pink and Usher having their X accounts wiped, speculation rampant on who is involved in this, from names from Oprah, J-Lo. The list goes on and on. So what can we expect? Well, former prosecutor Lionel joins us from the Lionel Nation channel on YouTube. So thank you for joining us. Let's start just with that, because you and I both read the indictment and there were pictures of guns, but there was no other evidence to back up these sex parties and enslavement. So is there a chance that the government doesn't have it? Why would his lawyer say this?
Well, there's a chance that they don't have it, but this is an indictment, and I read it, and they refer to freak-offs. You don't need pictures, but it's no. I mean, they're alleging this. Let me jump to the point, Natali. Not that that's not the point, but I always think like a lawyer, and I sometimes drive people crazy when I say this. Here's my defense. If I represented Diddy, I go out there and I can say it. I'm saying, look, he's a dirtbag. I understand the guns, drugs. You may not like this, but welcome to Hollywood. Since the days of the Rat Pack, since the days of casting couches and Louis Mayer and Charlie Chaplin and Hefner. Let me tell you something right now. He never kept anybody against their will. He never threatened anybody. He had a list of people who wanted to be a part of his party and his entourage. This idea that he went out, he's not snapping anybody up. And one of the things that, believe it or not, they could have brought up in the case of that Epstein feller that nobody wants to mention his name, it never got to that point.
Yes, we do want to mention his name. Mm-hmm.
Well, sometimes algorithms being what they are. Anyway, but the point is, he's what we're talking about. He very well could have said, look, what I did was wrong, but please, and I'm not suggesting I believe this, but don't suggest that I went out and grabbed people and pulled them in and threw them in the back of a white van. It doesn't work like that. There's not, and back to Diddy. Diddy could say there's not one woman, one person that ever could have just walked out the door. I don't want somebody there who doesn't want to be there.
Yes, that's exactly what his lawyer told CNN the day after he was arrested, that he interviewed everyone who was at these freak-off parties and it was all consensual. And therefore, it is limited to this group of, I guess they're calling them male prostitutes. And there was only one victim referred to in the indictment. So nobody else, so nothing else there is illegal. So why then do you think that there's more there? What's under the trapdoor?
And by the way, not only is, and you're correct about that, not only is there one victim, but there are no co-defendants. Normally, if you look at like a mafia, they've got loads of people left and right and names. It's just Diddy. I never knew he had that many nicknames. So the indictment is just a cursory kind of an introductory thing. It's very, very open-ended. They can file a superseding indictment. They can clarify. They can add more charges and that sort of things. But what's very interesting is, to me, the political part of this. This thing where others are worried about this. You know, one of my favorites is Oprah. Oprah Winfrey is one of my favorite subjects because I don't believe for a moment. Well, they tell us she's a billionaire. I'd love to find out how that's even remotely possible. Mick Jagger's not a billionaire, but she is. Okay, maybe, maybe not. Look at all the people that she's been involved with. And I mean so closely, from Bill Cosby to Russell Simmons to Diddy to Harvey Weinstein. Isn't it interesting? Don't you think if you were at the height of her, and by the way, she's not been in any way criminally or civilly or any way implicated in this whatsoever, but she's always in these pictures. Don't you think, Natali, if you were at that level, somebody would have said to you, listen, can I talk to you? I'm in charge of your security. Don't go near him. He's charged, just like the people who never talked to Prince Andrew. Don't go, get out of here. We know all about these folks. It's as though they feel that they are impenetrable. They don't have to follow the rules. You can't get me. I'm Oprah. I'm whoever I am. I am these people. Harvey Weinstein. The fact that they did this to Harvey Weinstein after he was so close with the Clintons and Hollywood and Washington. It's amazing how they turn on each other. One more name, which I still can't believe, which nobody really cares about, Alec Baldwin. I know it's a different issue, a different case, but do you think they would have brought Ron Howard or Martin Scorsese or Spielberg to trial if there was an accident on a movie set where those people know? Why do they turn on their own? So anyway, so that's a different issue. I believe that, going back to Diddy, his lawyer should just be a little quiet. Don't tell anybody what you're going to do. Don't tell anybody what your plans are. Just say, we will address this matter in a court of competent jurisdiction, and we don't do it in a court. That's it. To make people think like, wait a minute, this is, maybe they're working something out. But who are these people who all of a sudden now are freaking out? And why? Let me also suggest that it has been suggested that if you don't be surprised if you find out that maybe there were some cases of people whose names you don't know may have disappeared. You know, during these freak-offs, when you have IVs and all this type of fluid replenishment, and people can get hurt, people can overdose. We don't know really anything about that. This is very bare bones at this moment. But keep in mind what Diddy is thinking right now. He's in Brooklyn. He's sitting in this. He gets up at 6 a.m. He's in a cell. And they say, quote, suicide watch. And that's a fancy way of saying anybody who's a celebrity might be a little bit not used to this, as are most people. He realizes, I can't leave. I've been abandoned. Don't they know who I am? I'm Diddy. I'm it. And what do you think J-Lo's thinking? Don't you think they're going to be calling her and say, do you know anything about this? Not as a potential defendant, J-Lo, but as a witness, or have they already talked? Why would they issue or execute the search warrant and then wait so long to actually file charges? And what was Diddy doing in New York? It seems like he was doing it almost like he was trying to cooperate, or thought he was there to help or something. He almost seemed surprised. And for him to go from a 20, I mean, there's so much stuff that really, it's not really a legal issue, but from a practical point of view, I'm thinking, I wonder what they told him. Whose side is he on?
Yeah. And so, you know, on the personal level, I'm like, what do I care if there's a corrupt industry and they're all doing these dark deeds? But then it shows that the media that's put in front of me is a part of some sinister sex ring, and I don't know what to trust and what not to. So that's where I go into this dark, deep hole where what can you trust to watch on television or listen to the radio or anything like that. So who's innocent was getting hurt, and who is complicit? And all of these names that are thrown around over the last week that possibly either were good friends with him or associates or possibly involved, all of them seem to coalesce around getting Kamala Harris elected this weekend at a big celebrity party thrown by Oprah. So I asked myself, and maybe you have an opinion on this, what is the angle in bonding together like this around the Harris campaign at this juncture? Is there some kind of tactical advantage there? Well,
a couple of things. First of all, they're lefties and Democrats, and that's the way it goes. And I saw an old, it's funny. All of Diddy's interviews are available now, and they seem so ominous. He was on with Conan. I saw one recently from, I don't know what year. You saw this one where he said, what you need alcohols, and you got to lock the door and
make it hot inside.
Make it hot so they sweat. Yeah, it's like he was on with Charlemagne the God,
Mike Tyson.
Yeah, but he was also talking about how we've got to do the black agenda and how we've got to be a part. Listen, Kamala Harris has nothing to do with this, and that's part of that lefty thing. What's interesting, though, is let's go to a couple of people. Usher and Bieber. These were people who were kids, boys, in some cases underage. Who are these parents who let their kids, quote, be adopted by him? This is the other part of it. I don't care about consenting adults up to a point, because a consenting adult can withdraw consent and it becomes something far more serious. But this goes to show you this dark deep, dank, dangerous world of children and stars. And the ultimate issue is, this is a federal case? I mean, with all due respect, federal? You think, because federal
Why do you
means
say that with such incredulousness? It shouldn't be?
It should be state. California, Florida.
Okay.
Why? Normally federal courts say, nah, that's not, it's not big enough. Did he? Or they say he transported, this is the old Mann Act. Remember, they transported women across state borders for sexual. Why the feds involved in what amounts to this guy with some women? Again, I'm not trying to blame, but this is not, you think of international terrorism and, Epstein, a little bit different, obviously bigger, but so many questions about this. It's like, why? So what, very quickly, in conclusion, what his lawyers should be doing is saying nothing, get to the bottom of this. And I'm sure he's already said, what do you want? How has he fallen out of favor? Who is it exactly that you're looking for? If you were to throw him in prison for the rest of his life, nobody cares. The industry is not cleaned up. It's one person, one victim. It's not a series of, record labels and ABC, and it's just one guy in his organization. What's this really about? Federal case of this? Harvey Weinstein and others, it was local. I mean, New York, and I mean, even the Trump case, 34 counts, that's New York State. Why would, with all that the federal government has to deal with, why did he? What's going on? What's really behind it? And how many people are sweating, and why? And what is it that they've made? What deal could he make? What could he say? Listen, I'll plead to something. I'll do a little bit. But because remember, you do 85% of a sentence in federal court. So if you do 10, 20 years, that's a lot. What do you want from me? Why me? You've known who I was for years. What line did I traverse? When did I go too far? You sending a message? Question. But go back to the other ones too. The young men. Now, not that I don't want to add any, this isn't homophobia, mind you, but we always talk about this has a whole nother story when you talk about children or children that may be in the recesses of the story, though not specifically mentioned in the indictment. So it's fascinating.
Yeah. Now, is there a possibility that there is a thread to pull that does link this to Epstein? We don't know that yet, but I think you and I both have sources that know there are a lot of people who do want to uphold the law, that are working as prosecutors, and Epstein is the fish that got away. So is this an opportunity to keep the fish alive and get to something bigger?
Well, there's two industries that I believe are critical in our world today: human trafficking and extortion. Now, what I want to know is simply this: Epstein is not as big as this. I know that may sound crazy to you. That may be. I'll bet you there are a smaller number of people, bigger fish, by the way, who might have been involved with this. But this is a different story. This is drunken revelry, groups of people with phones and electronic devices. The question I have with both Diddy and Epstein, who has the devices? Who has the hard drives? Who has the pictures, the photos, the information of this? Who is this? If I have a veritable who's who, do you remember the Hamptons white parties that he had? These notorious parties that Diddy had here in the Hamptons, where he is known to have said, all right, kids, time to let the kids go home. Now we're going to go crazy. Leonardo DiCaprio, a veritable who's who of people in the Hamptons. Who has what? Who has pictures? What? And finally, why? Can you please tell me, why do celebrities do this? Why would they let themselves?
No, I can't tell you that.
Well, I want an answer. It's redacted. No. But I'm saying, I saw a picture of Brad Pitt. Remember Brad Pitt? Brad Pitt's by himself. I'm over here. Ben Affleck. I'm over here. Everybody else is over here. Everybody else says, here I am. Look at me. Come on, let's party. Leonardo DiCaprio, all those boat photos. You know this world called yachting. This is a phrase that has been outed about. This is where very famous people, maybe B-listers, but somebody, are invited to go on a yacht, maybe by a sheikh or some trillionaire.
Yes.
Out there,
see and be seen. Sure.
Well, but I'm saying, but they're out there in the international waters and just hang out with us. Lo and behold, you can come and perhaps make a new friend in this famous person. And they're called yachters, yachting. It is an absolute industry. That has always been thought of as being a means of collecting extortion and blackmail. Come on out. Hi. Hello, president, or it's not president, or senator, so-and-so. Be a guest. Guess who's coming? Just a name. Think of some B-list. Would you like to hang out with so-and-so? Hey, great. Go into this room, and and I've got this. I've got you in international waters, theoretically, so I'm kind of off the hook. But all of this is recorded. I mean,
okay,
everything.
But let's pretend, though, that we're not talking about Hollywood for a second. And let's pretend that if you really want to make it as an accountant, you have to go to sex parties in order to make it as an accountant. And what's illegal about that? And what could the government do to say, this can't happen anymore? Now everyone who wants to make it as an accountant has to do so on the up and up. Could we have a world in which that is the case for entertainment? Let's be utopic for a second.
Yeah, there is nothing wrong with doing this. If you want to be accountancy, listen, we got a Christmas party, come on. If you want to be a member of the book, absolutely not. That's not sex between consenting adults is not against the law, irrespective of the reason for it. How many times do people have sex with their boss to advance a career within an office? It's done forever. Or people who just, suck up, not literally, but I mean, so that's not the problem. What's interesting is that when you use this information to get to threaten somebody, to coerce somebody, to have some type of an upper hold, that's extortion, that's blackmail, that's another story. If it involves the use of children, if you're trafficking children, that's another story as well. But as you said just now, and I said initially, if Diddy said, I plead guilty, I'm a player, so what? I never force anybody to do this. And we had IV drugs, and you may not like my lifestyle, this may not be for you, but I've got a list of people begging, and as soon as this girl drops out, I've got another one to replace her. This isn't trafficking, this isn't coercion, fraud, abuse, neglect, or whatever. This is just me being Diddy. It's a sick world, and you're welcome to it.
Yeah. Okay, that's a terrifying outcome, though, to just say, yeah, I did this, but it was all consensual, and then he gets off. So, okay. Yes. I mean, it is, you can sue your boss for forcing him to have sex in order for a promotion. That is a civil case.
You can do it. Right, you can do this. However, you could do it if you felt like you had to. Years ago, give an example, there was a case, we don't really have them anymore, but there was in the 80s or whatever, there was this groups of people who were swingers. And they would go into like a Ramada Inn, someplace. And
sure.
And they tried to break it up until somebody said, what's the crime here? Is it assignation? What are they doing? They're having sex. Okay. And they said, well, it seemed wrong. And then they said, my God, this is going on all the time. And the more they looked into it, it seemed as though there was something wrong with it. It might be morally reprehensible, but there was nothing illegal about it. It was one of those things that it's one of those. I'll give you an example of one thing which I thought was
unseemly. Okay, but it's certainly, I mean, that's even more depressing, though, that these artifacts of clear social decay are legal. Okay.
No. In your opinion, it is. Listen, I don't want to be. Okay.
Listen,
I think it's depressed. I don't understand it. What I don't understand could fill libraries, but I know what's done. I think like a lawyer. Are you breaking the law? Are you breaking the law? Let me give you one more. I got to throw this one at you. There was a woman years ago who was she was not a hooker, not a prostitute, but she was a bondage mistress. And to make a long story short, she was found dead, or it was tragic. Okay, so they were asking whether she was a prostitute, and they said no, because she was not involved in sexual intercourse or intromission. She was involved basically in role playing. They said, yes, so people were coming over there and she was beating them with whips or whatever. He goes, yes, but that's not sexual. They says, well, it was to them. And they said, yes, but it's not intercourse. And people were going crazy there. What do you mean it's not intercourse? There's got to be something wrong with it. That's depraved. That's sad. It's not illegal. What if I paid you to be my friend? Natali, be my friend. Here's $100. That's all I want. Be my friend. Now listen, if anybody asks you, you're my friend. How pathetic is that? Yes, it's not illegal. There are things that you can do that really don't, there's nothing illegal about that. It may be strange. I'll go one step further. That second, quote, assassination attempt, it wasn't an assassination attempt. He brought a gun to a thing and was thinking about it, but they didn't catch him doing anything. He was ready for it, and this drives people crazy. What if he changed his mind? The law says, is there a law? Did you violate it? Whether you like it or not, whether you think, come on, with smoke, there's fire. And in this particular case with Diddy, what he may or may not have done, theoretically in some eyes, might not have been against the law.
Okay,
It's
I mean,
demented.
that's why his lawyer continues to say there will be no plea. We will fight this in court and we will
Don't
win.
say that.
So,
You should never say that. Never, don't say that. Just say things like,
well, he
"Don't
said
say
it. He said it on CNN. So, I mean,
Indeed.
we're talking about really brazen people here. Clearly, they feel free to have sex orgies and, sort of play their hand not close to the vest with federal prosecutors.
I got to throw one more thing at you. I'm so sorry. But
Okay.
This one always killed me. Years ago, when I was a prosecutor, there was if you had less than 20 grams of marijuana on you, it was like a misdemeanor. Like, well, whatever it is. Now, if I went to you and I said, listen, I don't want to sell people drugs, but I want to sell people fake stuff. And I want to get stupid people to give up their money. If I say, hey, Natali, want to buy some marijuana? And it's oregano. It's not marijuana. I'm not selling you marijuana. Guess what? It's a felony. I'm selling you a counterfeit controlled substance. I'm selling you oregano for a felony, but if it was marijuana, it would be a misdemeanor. What does that mean? What? It is the most bizarre concept in the world. It's when people try to pass laws that kind of catch the idea of what? We had a statute years ago that tried to prevent women from standing on the corner, prostitutes bothering neighbors by waving cars, dressed scantily, saying, hey. And people said, those are prostitutes. They passed a law that said you can't wave at people dressed in Daisy Dukes. It was the most ridiculous. But we know what they're up to. It's like, but that's not against the law. Yeah, but we don't want those people. It's like, there's no law against that. I wish you could. So sometimes.
But what you're doing is telling me the law, right? When the last time, again, because we're going to make a parallel with Epstein, last time we had a law against a big fish, and that big fish was mysteriously disappeared. So I think what we're talking about is how Diddy, should he get to trial, play his hand, and whether or not Diddy will get to trial because of the people associated with him. So those are two different things that you and I are circling around. Yeah. So we're going to leave it there for today. You can find out more by following Lionel on Lionel Nation YouTube channel. Thank you for this enlightening analysis, Lionel, as always.
And sickening.
Yes, that too. All right. Thanks again.
Artfully sickening. Thank you.
That's going to do it for us today on Redacted. Have you had enough of that? The Diddy case continues. And I apologize. That's probably not the last we're going to talk about this. What will we see? What do you think? Is this something that's legal? Or is it, again, as I said, a sign of social decay, something that maybe should be illegal? What's going to happen here? Or is this a reckoning that we've been waiting for? Who knows? Who knows? I will pray. I'm going to pray on this like I am on the many wars we've covered today. So thank you for joining us. Please be back here tomorrow. We'll be live Monday through Thursday like we are all the time. Live Monday through Thursday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Also, we have a newsletter. You can find it for free at redacted.inc. We don't upsell you on a subscription. It's totally free. And a lot of times it has links to original stories and pieces that we cover here on the show. So you can read things for yourself, think for yourself, form your own opinion. You never have to agree with us on Redacted, but we appreciate your informed opinion and we appreciate you being here. We'll see you tomorrow, everyone. Have a great day.